Hi, it's Kathy here from Bishopstone Yarns, and this is episode 5 of the Bishopstone Yarns podcast. And I'd like to welcome everyone here. If you're a returning viewer, hi, it's great to see you again. So happy that you've come back to spend a little bit of time with me. If you're a new viewer, welcome. It's really great to see you here, and I hope you enjoy your time here in this episode. Now, you can find me as Bishopstone Yarns on Instagram, Bishopstone Yarns on Facebook, or you can find me on Ravelry as Bishopstone, where I have most of my knitted items and some of my hand-spun yarns listed. So you can always look me up there. Also, if you like this episode, give me the thumbs up, subscribe. All those things kind of help me out with this little YouTube adventure, and lets me know that that you like what I'm doing. If you've got any comments, please leave a comment. I always love reading people's comments and responding to people's comments, and I like to know what other people are up to, what they're doing, what they're thinking. And so, so please leave a comment. Everybody's welcome here. And and as for those people who have watched this podcast before, you'll notice I'm not in my studio. I have moved to a different space in the house because today I'm going to be spinning, and I'm hoping that you'll join me. You'll pick up your knitting, your crochet, your spinning wheel and your fibre, or whatever you're doing at the moment and making. Just have a little time to sit down, have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and just relax. Take some time out for yourself and join me as I do some spinning. Well, I hope you enjoy, and I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hi. Today I thought that I might do some spinning while we had a little chat. This is my major craft, and I've had this for quite a few years now, and it's probably my go-to spinning wheel. I do have an e-spinner as well, a Hanson e-spinner, which I've only had for a bit over a year. But the major craft, I really like it. It works well. It's easier to move around. I used to have a traditional. Well, I learned to spin on a traditional, and that was really good, except that it took up such a large amount of room. So then I had a wheel, a Tara, an upright Tara that my mum had, and she'd kept that for me. And that was a really, really great wheel. It worked really well. It had a really great spin on it, except the only problem was that it was really, really heavy and really hard to move around. It was great for just having it home, but if I wanted to take it out to spinning group or to demonstrations or things like that, it was just got to the point where it was too heavy to carry it. You couldn't really carry it in one hand, then you have to take your basket with your fibres and everything else in it. Yeah, it became too difficult. And then I've tried a few different other types of spinning wheels, but then I decided to get the major craft, and I think I'll just stick with the major craft and the e-spinner for now, even though I still have a couple of other wheels that used to be my mum's, but I haven't really been using those. So, but maybe later on I'll do a video where we can have a look at the different spinning wheels that I have as well. So today I've got this pure silk. I thought I would spin this up, and well, it doesn't have a colourway, it just has a shade number, which is EX1059, which doesn't mean nothing to me. So this is the colourway. So we've got some different kind of purples, kind of a light purple, bit of a pink in there, some grey. And I think what I might end up doing is, I might just break it into sections and then spin it in its colours. So just break up an amount and then strip it back mainly into its colours, I think. And then start spinning, I think, in that way. And then we'll have a nice kind of graduated changing colour spin, which I don't have to think too much about. So it'll just be a bit of a random kind of spin, really. Now, if you've got your spinning wheel ready, if you want to do some spinning with me, that would be lovely. If you want to join me for some spinning, or you've got some knitting, crocheting, or just want to sit back with your cup of tea, cup of coffee, and just have a nice relaxing time, that would be lovely to share the time with you. And I think that that's one of the things these days. I used to go out to quite a number of different groups before I moved and before my mother died. For those people who've watched some of my previous podcasts, you'll know that my mother died maybe about a bit over a year ago, and my mother was a spinner and a weaver, and she was the one who, of course, got me into spinning and weaving and all things fibre-y. And I used to go, my mum had, when I don't think I was only, I'm not sure, but I was only a toddler, probably before I even got to school. My mum joined the local hand spinners and dyers guild and learned how to spin. And so she had been spinning, well, for as long as I could remember, she had been spinning. Then she took up weaving, and of course, as young kids, we used to go along to the spinners group, and then of course we used to go along to shearing, and we used to go and to a lot of shows. My mum sometimes did some judging at some of the shows for the spinning, and sometimes she did some demonstrations at the shows. So we used to go along, and we were fully immersed in the whole spinning that was going on. And so I used to go to a number of these groups with my mum, and it was a really big part of, I guess, our relationship as well, was spent a lot of time spinning, knitting, and doing things like that together. Since she died, I found it very difficult to actually go back to a couple of those groups, only because it's very emotional for me, and I find that for some reason I just haven't been able to hold my emotions in check that well when I've gone back to join those groups. And so we moved, and I have been going to local group, and that's okay, that's great. I mean, I really like going to that group. They're lovely lovely people, but it doesn't have quite the same strong emotional connection that a couple of the other groups have with my mum. And I'm sure as time goes by, that'll lessen, and it'll be a lot easier for me to go back to those groups and be able to actually sit down, spend some hours there, and not have to worry about my emotions and how I'm feeling, and Yeah, because I mean, you want to go along, enjoy yourself. Other people want to enjoy themselves, and yeah, I don't really want to get all emotional. And I guess as most people know, it's grief's one of those things that you can't really do anything about. It just kind of it takes over when it takes over, and so I haven't really been going out and spinning as much as I used to. And I kind of miss that kind of whole discussion about spinning with other people and things like that. So I thought this might be a bit of a chance that, there might be some other people out there who like to spin but would like to kind of spin along with someone else. And so I thought this would be a great way to pretend that we're spinning together. And yeah. And so I guess from that, I mean, I think, I've said before, I think in one of the other podcasts, that I started spinning when I was probably a teenager. I think I started spinning, and I quite enjoyed it. But of course, as a teenager, you've got a lot of other things going on in your life, and spinning wasn't really something that was high on my priority. And then I kind of came back to it a bit later on, and then really took it up with gusto and haven't looked back. And I guess for those people who spin and those people who understand, there is something very seductive about a fleece, about a raw fleece, about the feel of wool, the smell of wool, and I guess not just wool, but other things like alpaca, and there's a whole range of other, you've got yak and camel and mohair and angora, but all these fibres, there is something just mesmerisingly kind of fantastic about them. And I think we all fall a little bit in love with our fleeces, and the preparation, the feel, the excitement of starting a new spin. It's a bit like with knitting, isn't it? Really, you get excited about a pattern, about the yarns, the feel of the yarn, the colours, and the anticipation is almost, it's, I don't know, slightly addictive. So I have done a lot of spinning over the years, and I can't really imagine ever not spinning. I do find it quite relaxing. I do find it soothing, and I do think it, when I know people talk about things in terms of, a bit, you go into a bit of a different mind space, I guess, in a way, because you can just sit back, relax, spin, and I don't know where your thoughts go, but I find it very relaxing, very calming, and I just really enjoy it. The only thing is, I do find, I used to watch a lot of movies with subtitles, and I still really enjoy movies with subtitles, but I did find that it's very, very difficult to really concentrate on a movie with subtitles and spin at the same time. That's only a minor drawback. There are lots of other podcasts that I can listen to while I spin and when I knit. And so I think it always makes me feel a little bit like there's someone else around that you can spend your time with, learn something new, and that's the thing that always interests me, is that there's always something new to learn, something interesting, something either happening in the world, happening in someone's life, or just a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of kind of, I guess, little tips and tricks to do with spinning and knitting, that it always amazes me that no matter how long you've been doing something for, there's always something extra, something new to learn. And that's why I think I find it quite so interesting watching and listening to so many podcasts and so many different types of podcasts from around the world. You get to see a little snippet into not just different lives and different cultures, but also the different way, especially with knitting. I mean, there are a lot of different types of knitting traditions. And the same with spinning. There are quite a lot of different spinning traditions, spinning ideas, and depending on where people have traditionally learnt to spin, some of those traditions have come from, the types of sheep that they've had. So the fleeces, the different characteristics of the fleeces, of course, have led to different kind of fibre preparation, different kind of ways that you treat the fibres, and also different ways to spin the fibres, depending on the type of fleece, and also what you're going to make with the end product, because that makes a big difference to what you want to do. What you want to do with the fibre makes a big difference to how you actually prepare it and spin it. And I always find that really interesting, and I find it quite interesting as well that some people are quite definite about the way they spin and the way that they teach people to spin. And I always kind of think about spinning as it's something that you do because you love it and you enjoy it, and hopefully at the end of it you end up with some yarn that you like and that you can use for whatever purpose that can be. And for some people that can be something as simple as having this beautiful skein of wool that they just like to have on display and look at, because it's the process of making it and looking at something that you've made that makes you happy. And so not everything has to be made into something. If you get pleasure from just looking at your hand-spun yarn, then I say put it on display and look at it, because this is what spinning's all about, really, isn't it? It's about the enjoyment that we get from doing it, hopefully a little bit of relaxation, and soothing ourselves, and being kind to ourselves, giving us that time to just sit back and have a bit of a relax, which at this time of the world history, I guess it's something that we all need more of, and we all need to take a little bit of time out, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of us time to enjoy the things that we really like, that we like doing. And not everyone's able to get out there and meet other spinners or knitters. Some people live a long way away from spinning groups or other people who spin, and so they're spinning, knitting, making by themselves. And I think it'd be really nice just to share and see what everyone else is doing, what they're making, what they're thinking while they're making. I always find that really interesting. And yeah, just seeing more people enjoying themselves, just slowing down and enjoying kind of making whatever it is that they are making at the time. So I know my wheel is making a bit of a noise, so I hope that's not going to be too much of a distraction in the audio. But I must say it's one of those things that about spinning is it's just part of the process, I think. All those little extra knocks and sounds that our wheels make, and if you've been around a group of spinners, you know that each wheel seems to have its own little sounds and creaks and peculiarities, and I just find that part of the enjoyment of spinning. It's a machine, it works. Sometimes they work really hard and for long hours, and it's just the fabric of the wheel that it will make noises, and I quite enjoy those sounds. I quite enjoy the I mean, I guess it's telling its own story, isn't it, by making its noise. So that's yeah. I guess I could try and if it was annoying me, I could quite easily maybe try and work out exactly where the noise is coming from, strip it back and fix it. But it doesn't worry me, but hopefully it won't be too annoying too on the video with the sound. Now, for those people who've also seen my other podcast, you'll realise I'm actually not in my studio at the moment. I tried really hard to video in my studio, but there was no space that I could find with a clear background. Everywhere I tried to film in my studio, there was a lot of things in the background, so it made it really hard to actually see the spinning or what was happening. So I decided I thought I'd come out here and spin for you out in this area. Today, the weather, well, it is autumn here now, but the weather is a lot cooler. We had a big drop in temperature. We kind of dropped about, I think, 10 degrees from one day to the next, and we have had a fair bit of wind, and even though it's a bit, the temperature's not too cold today, it's very overcast, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what the weather's going to do, but we have had a sudden change from what we had was we'd had quite a few days of very hot and humid weather, which is not at all typical for Tasmania, where I am, and even so that, you know, even working in the garden, it wasn't really all that pleasant because it was so humid. And yeah, so I don't know what our weather's going to do down here. I mean, there have been some really big floods on the mainland of Australia, in both Queensland and New South Wales, and a lot of people have lost everything, have lost their houses and their businesses, and unfortunately there have been quite a few people who've died as well. So yeah, a few humid days and a few overcast days are really nothing to complain about when you think about what other people in Australia are going through at this point in time, and also not just in Australia but of course worldwide. You need to stop sometimes and just remind yourself that, you know, for those of us who are lucky enough to be somewhere safe, you know, we are very, very lucky, and our heart goes out to those people who are not safe at the moment, whose lives have been turned upside down. And yes, I don't know, I won't go on about that. I think we all have our own thoughts, and I'm sure we all hope that everyone comes through okay, whether they're in Australia affected by floods or overseas. Anyway, I think we should probably get back to something a bit more enjoyable, thinking about spinning. And yeah, I'd really like to hear what everyone else is spinning. What are you working on at the moment? What exciting projects have you got coming up? As I said, I'm spinning this silk, and I haven't really thought ahead that I will ply it, probably with this a solid colour, but probably a solid colour of wool, I would probably think. I'm not quite sure yet what colour. I'll have to think about it. I might end up, depending on, I'll have a look and see how much I end up with at the end of the project, but I might make something a bit like a shawl, I think. I mean, lace is always lovely in a shawl. I don't know, I haven't really given it that much thought actually, which is usually the case when it comes to spinning. Quite often I find that I'm just spinning something up, and then the project comes to me afterwards. I mean, I do have a couple of things in my spinning queue at the moment. There's another jumper for one of my sons that I'm going to have a look at and see about what I'm going to spin up for him to do with that jumper. But that's probably somewhere further down the track, and yeah, it might be a bit of a winter project, I think. Yes. I used to find that silk, and I've spun a bit of silk over the years, that in summertime when I was outside doing a lot of gardening, if I then tried to spin silk or anything else really fine like that, I used to find that gardeners' hands and spinning really fine silk didn't really go well together. Luckily at the moment my hands are okay, and they're nice and soft, and I'm not having any problems with the silk kind of catching on anything. And silk's always a really nice thing to spin. It's so nice and soft, and yeah, it just flows very nicely and easily. And yeah, I wonder if anyone else is spinning silk at the moment, what they might be thinking about doing with their silk, whether they've got plans for it at the moment, or they're just going to spin it and then see what happens. Sounds like there's a small plane going overhead at the moment. About a week ago, we did have quite a lot of small planes and helicopters flying around here. We had there had been two bushfires, well, small fires just nearby, where they had the helicopters and the aerial firefighting planes out. And so I must admit now, whenever I hear a plane, I always stop and think, oh, what's happening? Is it just one plane? Are there more planes? Is there another fire? Luckily, those two fires that were here, they were one was quite close to some houses, but both were put out really quickly. I mean, the firefighters do such a great job. The aerial dropping of water is just amazing when you watch it, and they work hard. They I don't know how many trips they must have done to collect the water and dump the water, but they did a great job of getting the fires under control, and the fact that no houses or buildings were damaged was really impressive as well. Even though it's autumn, I mean, we are coming to the end of kind of like the fire season here, but you can never actually be ready to say that not to worry about a bushfire at all. Maybe in the middle of winter we don't have to worry so much, but it's still quite dry here, so yeah, we definitely don't need any more kind of fires close to us or close to anyone else at this moment. I think 2022 has thrown enough at us already. I don't think we need anything else to add any extra excitement into our lives. Yes, I think something, just going back to something nice and almost boring life would be really nice. A really boring news cycle would be lovely as well. Yes, we can only take it one day at a time, really. So just thinking about this purple here, I'm actually quite enjoying the colourway of this. I guess it's a little bit harder to see through the camera, but I'm actually on the kind of like a dark kind of, I don't know what you call it, bit of a, yeah, I don't know, is it a mulberry kind of a colour, or a, I mean, I like purple. I like all the ranges of purples, and I'm really liking the range of colours in this silk. I'm not really sure how long I've had this silk for. It looks like something I've had for a while. I would guess that I had bought this, I would have bought this from our local guild. The guild has a shop where they have lots of fibre, and I'm pretty sure this looks like something that I would have bought from the guild. And but like I'm saying, I think I've probably had it for quite a few years, considering that I can't really remember when I bought it. Probably means, yeah, it's been around for quite a while. And sometimes it's just nice to kind of grab something out of the fibre stash and just spin it up, and then think about what I'm going to do with it later. Sometimes if I spend too long wanting to find a project first before I start spinning, then I could spend too much time looking for a project and not actually getting anything done. I guess you can, well, especially on somewhere like Ravelry. You can start out by thinking, I'll just spend 10 minutes, I'll just look for a pattern, see what there is, and then lo and behold, a couple of hours later, it's you're still on there, and you might have added a few things to your queue, but you may not have even found the pattern that you're looking for, let alone the project that you want to do. So yeah, so sometimes I find I'm better off just jumping in and starting something and seeing where it takes me. And at the moment, I'm really happy with this one. So that's really good. Now, I have been watching not just a knitting podcast, but I've started watching a couple of spinning podcasts as well. And of course, off the top of my head, I can't exactly remember their names, which is absolutely terrible, isn't it? I should have written it down. And today you can see I've even got my glasses on, because I find in my studio, I find it really hard to find a good way to film with my glasses on without getting a lot of glare. The problem with that, of course, is that I can't read my notes that I've written to remind me about things. But up here I thought I'd just wear my glasses, and sorry about the glare on the glasses, but I'm sure you'll be able to get past that, hopefully. Okay, so I'm just adding in another colour. This is much more of a pinky plum kind of colour. And yeah, very happy with the different colours, and really interested to see what it's going to look like when it's finished. And yeah, what colour I'll decide to spin it up with in the end. And a little bit of white in there as well. Yes, so many lovely colours. And that's the other thing about spinning, of course, is you know, the fact that you can take a white fleece or even a brown fleece, or any colour really, and dye it up as well. I mean, dyeing is always one of the fun things about spinning, and especially for me, we had a brown sheep, and so I had done a lot of spinning of brown fleeces, and brown really, I mean, really isn't my colour. I don't really wear a lot of brown, and it's never really been a colour that I've kind of been particularly drawn to. But a brown fleece gives can be a really great base to over dye, and so yeah, the fun and enjoyment of creating not only your own yarn but dyeing it as well. Yes, I mean, there is so much fun to be had with fibres and creating and making. It's hard to know where to start, where to finish, and it's a good thing that you know, we have all these things that we want to try, and these big huge long lists to keep us busy, and then also looking at all the amazing dyers who are out there selling their hand-dyed yarns. There are so many absolutely amazing dyers around, and I always become quite interested in looking at what colours they use, and the way in which they add their colours together. And some people have that real eye as well, don't they? They're just absolutely brilliant at putting colours together, and their palette of colours are just absolutely gorgeous. And which is something it's interesting, isn't it? I've tried to break away. You have your favourite colours. Like with me, of course, it's the purples and that whole range. And sometimes I've tried to break away from that and move to other colours and think that I'll maybe I should get some different coloured dyes and use those. And I start doing that, but then I always seem to gravitate back to the blues and the purples. And I don't know, I guess I heard a discussion once about someone was talking about colours, and they were talking about we're talking about the colours of the places where we grow up, and the colours that surround us where we grow up, where we call home. And in different landscapes have different colours, different colour palettes, and that subconsciously this person believed that we're so influenced by those colours because they give us such a strong emotional reaction. We kind of see it as home, or they're the colours of home. They're the colours that remind us of home and love and family, and that sometimes we can gravitate a lot to those sorts of colours and the colour palettes as well, because it's something that we see each day in nature, whether we kind of consciously are aware of it or not, but that it's kind of there as a backdrop for our colour palette, which I kind of thought was quite an interesting discussion, because there are certain colours here that I find very kind of relaxing and remind me very much of the landscape here in Tasmania, but I don't know where the purple kind of fits in. my purple, the use of the purples. I don't know that I would necessarily describe our landscape here as a purple-based landscape. But I thought it was quite an interesting idea, and I can understand in a way that we have a certain colour palette that we're used to from seeing from nature. And I wondered whether or not maybe designers, fabric designers, and that whether or not they're more influenced in that way by the colour palette that they know about, where they come from and what's familiar to them. So I don't know. You let me know what your ideas are on that, or if it's something you've ever thought about before, or or something that you just don't think so. You just kind of think we just like whatever colours we like, and that's our palette. Maybe that's all there is to it. Yes. Oh, I think I haven't done a very good job here of dividing my colours. They're getting a little bit muddy there, and I think I might just might separate it just a tad bit more, just to make my colours just a bit more. Okay. Well, how are you going with your spinning or your knitting? or whatever it is you're doing at the moment. Hopefully you're still awake, haven't relaxed too much, fallen asleep on the couch, which if you have, that's fine. It's equally as fine as long as you're having a nice, relaxing, soothing time. Then I think that's all we can ask for. And I'm having fun here. I'm enjoying this spin, and I'm enjoying talking to you, and I hope that you've been able to take some time out of probably out of your day to just sit down, relax, enjoy yourself, and kind of spend some time to make something, to create something, or even just to start thinking about what you might like to make, what you might like to, what project you might like to be doing next, which I think is another thing we always do, isn't it? We always tend to be working on something, and then our minds are always thinking, and when I finish this, I'm going to make, and you're already thinking about the next project, the next thing in our queue, and what we're going to end up making next. And I think some people might even have 2, 3 or 4 projects ahead already worked out and decided on what they're going to do. I'm not really that organised. I don't think that far ahead. I used to have multiple projects on the go, and then I guess now I've tried to whittle that down, so I've only got a couple of things on the go at a time, because I find it quite hard not to keep track of it, but the momentum, I find it much easier if I just keep working on 1 or 2 projects. I find the momentum kind of goes quicker rather than doing like a few rows of something and then a few rows of something else and then putting something away. And especially when you put something away and it's been sitting untouched for quite a period of time, I think sometimes we lose the enthusiasm for it, and you've lost kind of the groove of where you're up to and that feeling of excitement when you started something. And so for me personally, I just kind of find it easier just to try and stick to 1 or 2 things. And mind you, that doesn't always happen with spinning, because sometimes I do end up with quite a number of bobbins sitting there waiting to be plied and then not really knowing what I'm going to ply them with, what I'm going to actually kind of do with them. And sometimes those singles can sit there on those bobbins for quite a long time, and sometimes it's only the fact that I'm about to run out of bobbins that I decide that I'm definitely going to have to make a quick decision and just ply a couple of them together and hope for the best. Hope I've got something that works well to ply it with. And I'm just drifting off thinking about what I'm going to ply this one with at the moment. Just got a bit of sorry, bit of silk. I think I just swallowed a bit of silk there. Oh dear, oh dear. Should have brought a drink of water up with me, I think. Anyway, back to the spinning. Well, I think I probably talked enough now, and I hope everyone else has enjoyed listening to me talking away as we've been working away together here. And let me know what you think about having a spin together, if you've enjoyed it, if you like this type of podcast, which I thought we might kind of do, every other podcast. Maybe we could sit and spin together, and then on the other podcast I will talk about my knitting and other things that I've been doing. Yes, on my next episode I will be showing you where I'm up to in my other projects, and I started another Balvenie bonnet, and I'm still working on my magnolia blue, and I might even have the thoughts of what I might be starting next, but we'll see in the next episode where I'm up to and what I'm thinking about. But I think for the moment I might stop there for the moment, go and get myself a drink of water, brush down my trousers. I've got a bit of extra silk sitting on there. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed our time together here, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself making and creating whatever you've been doing. Okay, bye.